Bueno, creo que ahora ya sí podemos comenzar. Buenos días a todas y a todos.
Good morning. I think we can start. Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to yet another meeting of our project CERP, and it's the final meeting. However, there is still some work for us to do until the end of June, when this project comes to an end officially. However, this is our final meeting. So we will need to prepare all the formal suggestions and proposals, the infographics and other deliverables that we are expected to do in this project. We know each other quite well. If you would like to take the floor, feel free to do so. But I think that we have known each other for some time now, so we can go straight to our work. And also, Dushan sent us some documents quite recently, and we did not have that much time to read through them. So perhaps it's a good idea for us to give the floor to Dushan, who will explain what these new documents contain, because as I said, there was too little time for us to familiarize ourselves with the documents. So in the first part of our meeting, Dushan will present the comparative report, and also he will present the policy position document. If you would like to speak, that's of course possible, just raise your hand. But now I will be handing over to Dushan so that he starts his presentation, and over to you, Dushan.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you all. Good to see you again. It's an honor, a privilege to be a part of this small but valuable group of people, and I think we have good results on our previous and our current project. I would share my PowerPoint presentation to you, as agreed with the comparative report proposal, and I will of course explain the latest documents I sent to Miriam, and she sent it to you. Let me share. Okay. Okay, I think you can see it. Can I leave it this way, or should I enter the full screen?
Full screen, please.
Full screen, yes, of course. Okay, thank you, Nuno, for your valuable comments, as always. First, I have to explain my message to Miriam this morning. I didn't have much time to update this comparative report, but I tried anyway. If you remember, some of you participated in our online meeting. It was on the Europe Day or the Victory Day on May, as I remember, on May 9th. There were some proposals for modification and improvement of the comparative report. So I tried to put most of these propositions into this version of the comparative report, and now it is not final version. It's still just a proposal, but proposal that updated your remarks and your contributions. Of course, I was not able to put it all in it, but I think this version could be much more valuable. First of all, I tried to make short summaries at the end of all the national reports. You can see it in this document I sent you this morning. These short summaries served as a basis for a short comparative analysis. It was also proposed by Angel, by I think colleagues from Małgorzata and I can't remember who else. But it was, of course, a good proposal, and tried to make these short summaries at the end of the portion of every national report in the comparative report, and to make some comparisons. You will see in this PowerPoint presentation how I did it. There was a misunderstanding about the desk analysis, and Miriam sent to me and to you all this desk analysis. Of course, these are large documents, 30, 40 pages for 6 countries, 200 and more pages. But I managed to extract some, at least introductory remarks about the social, political, economical, and legal context of every country regarding the green transition, social dialogue, and collective bargaining. So, of course, these short summaries are not perfect, but I think they can give us in this final document at least some insight inside this complex context regarding these aforementioned processes. Let us just remind you about the key processes in question of our CRP or CERP, as we say it, project. Key concepts and processes were just transition, European Green Deal, and green social dialogue and collective bargaining under the fast-forwarding energy transition. I didn't write the project proposal, but of course I accepted to be chief coordinator of the research. Of course, I agree with the rationale behind the project proposal. I think it's very important, and our work so far, I think, led us to some interesting and very useful conclusions and recommendations. These sectors are transport sector and the public sector. Let me remind you about the research part of this report, and of course of the project and this comparative report. It consists of national desk researchers in short, focus groups, and interviews conducted with trade union leaders, members, managers of private and public companies, representatives of sectoral employer organizations, and representatives of relevant institutions. In reality, of course, we all had to struggle with finding the right respondents, but finally, I think we managed to do very good desk research, of course, and very good qualitative research with interviews and focus groups. I tried to find and present to you key findings of national reports. Of course, Angel is much more relevant informer about this, but as a chief coordinator of research, it was my duty to try to summarize some of these findings. Of course, Spain is the first, because we can, I think, all agree that Spain has maybe the most advanced context of green transition, social dialogue, and collective bargaining, and I will try to emphasize some of these key points. Of course, we start with the whole system of industrial relations in Spain. There is a dual system in the same company, or public administration, or work center. There is on one side the single representation of all employees, the work councils, and the trade union representation, which is corresponding to the trade unions through the so-called trade union sections. It was interesting for me that what Angel emphasized, the role of the Spanish law from 2007, which introduced two new features related to environmental sustainability. The first of it is recognizing the right to information on environmental measures that affect employment. And the second one is the duty of representatives to cooperate with the management to achieve environmental sustainability, where this is agreed in the collective agreement. Collective agreements exist at state sector level, which is drawn up to regional, provincial, or municipal level, and at company level. Some conclusions can be drawn from the desk research and the focus groups in Spain. There are various legislative initiatives to promote sustainable development in Spain, which introduce the obligation to negotiate sustainable mobility plans between companies and the legal representation of employees in the company. Next, in the context of green collective bargaining, several sectors have addressed sustainable development in their companies, including some aspects such as awareness of the impact on the environment, policy statements and general commitments on environmental protection, the integration of the concept of the working environment, the link between the environment and risk prevention in the workplace, and the creation of an environmental and sustainability officer in companies. Of course, some of the most important findings, and very interesting for me, I hope also for you, even in Spain, which I think can be found as the most advanced country inside this small group of countries participating in the project. There is a gap between the measures proposed by the political elite or political class, as the report states, and citizens' ideas of environmental sustainability. Also, there is a lack of training and information for employees on sustainability and environmental protection, for which both employers and trade unions are held responsible. Next, there are some doubts about the impact that the green and digital transitions could have on certain jobs and in certain professions, in terms of job losses or career disruption due to a lack of professional skills. But as Angel put it, there is no alarm in this sense. So maybe that could be a topic for this discussion later, to clarify this sentence. It's important and it's consistent with Angel's propositions from earlier that we are talking about digital transitions. I found this emphasis also in the report from colleagues from Lazar and colleagues from North Macedonia. The other reports didn't put too much emphasis on this digitalization, but I think it's very, very interesting and very good line of research. Of course, maybe for some other project. In Spain, according to national report, it's generally lamented that the prevention of occupational risks is being neglected in the face of digital transformation and the energy transition. There is a need to strengthen research and the identification of new risks, their assessments, and the application of corrective and preventive measures. Both put in place and trade unions identify their needs, challenges, and priority measures as the focus of collective bargaining regarding the green transition. Even in Spain, it is not the center of the collective bargaining, which is understandable, of course. It is a similar situation to other countries. In short, collective bargaining in Spain is increasingly aimed at giving industrial relations an innovative regulatory framework in terms of sustainability and introducing environmental protection as one of the elements to be taken into account in the negotiation platforms, both from an internal perspective, such as taking into account the working environment, and from an external perspective, such as promoting environmental protection by companies in cooperation with workers. However, according to national report, these measures must be accompanied by greater awareness raising among workers, employers, and citizens in general, greater development of legislation to promote environmentally friendly collective bargaining, and greater convergence between the proposals of politicians, in this case, these are European and Spanish politicians, because it deals with the situation in Spain, and the real needs of citizens. Let me say that you will see later in other summaries of national reports that I think this is may say universal topic of our research, that these documents and these policies and these strategies are not really tailored or made to meet the real needs of citizens and workforce in particular. As for Portugal, there are some key findings. Of course, it's all debatable. So I expect from colleagues from Portugal to later involve in a discussion. These are just some parts of the report. But what was most impressive to me and most important, one of the most important conclusions from the report from Portugal, that trade unions in Portugal have been weakened by neoliberal policies and austerity measures, which has affected their approach to collective bargaining. Especially the Troika period from 2011 to 2014 has been emphasized in that respect, where when the practice of collective bargaining was further undermined. Here I can see some similarities to Greek experience, of course, rather different, but in some points, some aspects, again very similar. Colleagues from Portugal concluded that there are no collective, after of course an extensive research, there are no collective agreements with exact titles or descriptions that explicitly refer to sustainable and just transition. To their knowledge, this indicates a superficial approach to the issue, despite the foreseeable impact on employment, the labor market, and work organization. Interviews conducted indicated that the concept of just transition, including its sub-concepts, has different forms of knowledge and application depending on the sector of the actors interviewed. This is the similar you will see later with the report from Poland and from Serbia and some other countries. These concepts, including the just transition and European Green Deal and etc., is a well-known topic in public administration in Portugal. However, in the field of urban transport, it's not a topic of social dialogue. So we can see this discrepancy, which are followed which are supported by the results that there is this mismatch of the conceptual frameworks of just transition, green social dialogue, and their practical implementation in the Portuguese transport and the public sectors. Here again, as in Spain, both employers and trade unions prioritize immediate economic concerns and focus primarily on financial negotiations such as wages and job security. Well, we can see that even in countries and states of European Union, the agenda of green transition is not fully in action. Of course, it can be understood because there are some timelines, and all countries are trying to fulfill these obligations and very optimistic plans. Of course, there is a tendency by employers and trade unions to rely on reactive measures and wait for external funding or regulatory changes to initiate action, rather than actively planning and preparing for the green transition. Of course, it can also be understood because until political class or political elite brings or adopts necessary political documents, the green transition is only an idea, may I say. Of course, interesting point from the colleagues for Portugal that trade unions also stretch to the limits because they lack the technical expertise to negotiate complex environmental and risk avoidance measures. We can see later in the comparative part of this comparative report that the similar situation is almost every other country involved in this project, maybe except in Spain, but of course it's open for discussion. As for some selected or key findings of national reports from Poland, the most important Polish measures to implement the European Green Deal are the National Energy and Climate Plan and Poland's energy policy until 2040. Of course, to my knowledge, all of EU member countries had to adopt these documents, but some made it before other countries. Even Serbia, which is only, I hope, still the EU candidate country, adopted some of these documents. As for the Polish public sector, it comprises state institutions, local self-government units, and organizations with predominantly public capital, as expected. Also, the public sector dominates in the areas of public administration, education, health, and social work. As for the transport sector, it's largely dominated by private companies, as in other countries. But a significant part of the labor force employed in the public sector. We discussed this matter of the transport sector at our first meeting, as I remember, in Malaga. So in every country, transport sector is divided into public sector for public transport, and the private sector, the other types of transport, the other subsectors of transport sector. One of the most interesting conclusions from the Polish report for me was that Polish industrial relation system is characterized by high fragmentation, low union density, low employer density, and decentralized collective bargaining system, mainly at company level. Employee representation consists of trade unions and work councils. Of course, the trade unions are predominant. Also, maybe this would be a good point of discussion because Poland and, for example, Serbia, North Macedonia share the similar experience of socialism, socialist system. So in Serbia or in former Yugoslavia, we are, including of course North Macedonia, we are familiar with its work councils. So maybe it could be a good point of discussion. As for collective bargaining, it takes place at the level of individual and multiple companies, with company level agreements dominating. Again, we have some important feature of the general industrial relations and the collective bargaining practices. What's interesting in the light of our project, there are 2 collective agreements in the coal and lignite mining sector and in the electricity sector that address the challenges of the green transition and include support measures for the employees concerned, something that's absolutely missing, for example, in Serbia and North Macedonia. To my knowledge and according to results of our research in these 2 countries. The field study included 2 focus groups with trade union representatives from the energy sector, within the public sector and the transport sector, respectively, and 4 individual interviews with employer representatives in the public sector, specifically energy and the waste management industry and transport. Here are some results of the Polish field study, Polish qualitative study. All participants have come across the notion of just transition, but the way it's applied varies from sector to sector and depends on the impact of the green transition on workers' situation. That's something I said previously and applies also to Portugal, as I remember, to Spain, and etc. etc. It seems that the term is primarily perceived as some sort of buzzword found in the narrative of the European Green Deal, and the history of the concept as coming from the trade union movement is not widely known. As for expected changes that would come as a result of the green transition, these major changes are expected in the energy sector, but most municipal companies have not identified any significant impact on employment. This is similar to situation in Serbia, if I may say, but of course we will talk about this later. Job creation is expected in the areas of renewable energy, power line modernization, and circular economy initiatives, despite the challenges of retraining and social protection for workers who lose their jobs as a result of the transition. Of course, the expectations from employers and the trade union members and leaders are twofold. On one side, we have, may I say, fear or distress of the changes to come, but new opportunities are also expected for new jobs, new businesses, etc., etc. As for some selected or key findings of national reports from Greece, I emphasized the nature of collective bargaining. In Greece, collective bargaining process is structured at 3 levels: at national level, at sectoral or occupational level, and at company level, with negotiations leading to collective agreements that define employment conditions. This is something that's expected. As I mentioned earlier, there is a significant impact of the economic crisis. Of course, colleagues from Greek know it much better than the rest of us. And this economic crisis, according to the conclusions of the Greek colleagues, has significantly changed this framework, reducing the influence of national agreements and increasing the prevalence of company-level agreements. So, in other words, I think that there was a worsening of the collective agreement situation in Greece, as I understand this, because there is no obligatory framework for companies. So these company level agreements, I suppose, was worse for the workers' rights and other aspects of their employment. The Greek colleagues took an interesting approach about the I don't know, may I say sociological analysis of the industrial relations and power dynamics between capital and labor. It was because I'm a sociologist, it is my primary profession. It was very interesting to me because they identified 4 areas of contestation of these industrial relations: political and legislative, industrial relations in narrow sense, legal, and intergovernmental, which characterize the collective bargaining landscape. As a result of these changes and transformations, the structure of collective bargaining in Greece has changed from a hierarchical system to a more fragmented system in which company level agreements prevail, as I emphasized a minute earlier. The legal framework has been changed to allow for less favorable conditions at company level, which has an impact on the overall coordination of negotiations, as already mentioned. The reforms aimed at balancing power in employers, restricting employees' access to arbitration, and changing the nature of collective agreements. As a result, under these unfavorable circumstances, it's fair to say that the green transformation process in Green is mainly driven by European initiatives and not by Greek society. It was my general conclusion. Maybe I'm wrong, and I ask later Greek colleagues to discuss this issue also. Because I see in their report that the European documents, directives are mainly known to their respondents, but in reality, the application of these processes and documents is not what's happening. Similar to situation in I think in other EU countries. As for this field study part of our activities, 3 focus groups consisting of 10 people each were formed for the field study in Greece, with the participants from trade unions and public sector. These focus groups showed that the European Green Deal is known and supported. That's something I said a minute ago, with a focus on sustainable development, social dialogue, and new issues such as teleworking and technology integration. Of course, the respondents or the focus group participants are aware that transition to a low carbon economy can lead to displacement of workers, but can also create new opportunities. In this process, according to this Greek report, what we can see that there is a lack of comprehensive risk assessment for worker health and safety, which requires detailed studies and proactive measures, something that can be identified in other countries as well. As for short and long-term strategies, they include greater trade union involvement in green initiatives, cost savings, and the modernization of trade unions, something that could be, of course, applied to all other countries included in this project. As for some selected or key findings from North Macedonia, it was also very interesting to me because I didn't have a chance to discuss it with colleagues from North Macedonia earlier. Something that is similar to situation in Serbia. The public sector in Macedonia faces challenges such as poor service quality, unprofessional behavior, and political affiliation in employment. As for transport sector, it is identified as a weak point in the North Macedonian public sector, particularly with regard to railway infrastructure and the use of private vehicles. Public sector employees have the right. The situation is may I say, very contradictory. And for me, it was the surprise to see that public sectors have, of course, they have the right to join trade unions and to strike, but this right is provided in accordance with the constitution and the law. If we compare the situation with Serbia, the law, labor law or labor code in Serbia is very unfavorable to collective bargaining in general, except maybe for public sector as well as in North Macedonia. As for collective agreements, they are regulated by the Labor Relations Acts and exist at state, industry, and employer level as in other countries. Majority of other countries involved in this project. The general collective agreement for the public sector is directly implemented. That was a sort of surprise for me, and is mandatory for employers and employees, with the exception of state government agency. Of course, in my opinion, this is also maybe a good topic for clarification or for discussion from our colleagues from North Macedonia. As a consequence, the trade union work in the public sector is well organized, but faces challenges due to divisions between trade union organizations and the lack of attention to environmental provisions in the agreements. So now we come to the green transition process. Like in Serbia, I think it's just at the beginning in North Macedonia. As for transport sector in North Macedonia, it faces challenges, including strikes over unpaid salaries in the public transport company. One of the conclusions that, of course, reforms are needed to create a public sector that focuses on digitalization. Here, it is the process, as mentioned in the Spanish National Report, and the colleagues from North Macedonia insist on this process, I think with reason. Innovation and environmental protection, but the current challenges are hindering progress in these areas. Finally, in this, as part of this project, let me say something about the field part or the qualitative research. 3 focus groups were conducted with a total of course, 30 participants. Half of the interviewees were employee representatives. The rest were employers or representatives of employees' organizations. As for some of the findings, workers are generally unaware of the European Green Deal, which means that it's, of course, insufficiently integrated into collective bargaining. Opinions differ on the impact of the green transition, with a focus on the need for training and the creation of new jobs, but also on potential new health and safety risks. Respondents or the focus group participants in this case are here again, may I say, divided, because it's natural that they expect new opportunities in the form of new jobs and the new business opportunities, but also they are aware that the green transition can bring some new risks and some new uncertainties and some new inequalities. As for collective labor agreements, they do not include the environmental provisions. Some recommendations are proposed, but we will speak about them later. And of course, the conclusion is the cooperation between employers and trade unions is crucial to reconcile environmental goals with labor standards. As for findings in Serbia, I will be short in this respect. We have a very unfavorable situation of social dialogue in the world of work. There is, of course, a lack of significant initiatives toward overcoming the challenges that the green transition will inevitably entail. Collective bargaining is virtually non-existent in the private sector, while in the public sector it is so-called automatic and does not produce particularly favorable results. There are many collective agreements in public sector, but general situation of the industrial relations in Serbia is very unfavorable because of the amendments of the Labor Act from 2014, which set back collective bargaining in a great extent. The general collective agreement ceased to be valid in 2011, and negotiations did not continue at all. As for collective agreements, none of them contains any provisions on the transition to green economy, and of course the protection of the position and rights of workers. As for general social dialogue in the transport sector, it does not exist, and there is no separate collective agreement for this sector as a whole. There are some collective agreements for the parts of the transport sector, which is the subsector of the public sector. I hope you understand, because there is a significant proportion of the transport in Serbia that can be put in, that can be regarded as a public sector. It mostly applies to the municipal level. Belgrade, many of course, all major cities in Serbia have public transport. So there are separate collective agreements, but not the agreement for the whole transport sector. As for the project in Serbia, I don't have to speak about this. You see our respondents. We have one focus group and other with 9 trade unions, leaders and members, and others we had individual interviews with the trade union leaders, representatives of private and public companies, and other representatives of sectoral employer organizations. What is the basic conclusion? That the main concepts and processes related to green transition are poorly understood and even less applied in practice. This is especially true for the process of green social dialogue and collective bargaining. Trade unions are seen as passive, not sufficiently involved in the development of environmental laws and protocols, and they focus on traditional issues rather than engage in social dialogue on the green transition. Because in Serbia, I think in North Macedonia too, the issue of green transition is still a long future. Although I already said some documents and some laws and some other framework, legal framework has been adopted. Respondents recognize the need for training, retraining, upskilling of the work force. Of course, it's also in the future, but they are thinking proactive because they know what could be the challenges and the issues of the green transition. Of course, there is a lack of organized and coordinated approach to training, upskilling workers for green jobs. Just one clarification: when we say green jobs, we have mainly managers of private transport companies. They said, well, we have electric vehicles and it's a green job, and we trained these drivers for some time, and they consider it to be green jobs. Of course, it's much more than that, and there are many challenges. I'm going to use my 15 minutes because to original schedule I have time until 11, quarter after 11. Miriam, is it okay? Because I need to present, of course. I think if someone has another position, please raise your hand or send message. This part, as I said, was added after our meeting, online meeting, previous online meeting, 12 days or 11 days ago. This comparative analysis was very difficult to perform, but I think it could get very fruitful results. To my knowledge, in my opinion, there is a clear dividing line. I'm sorry to say it, but on one side there are the members of the European Union in this regard of the green transition, European Green Deal, and everything else. Of course, we have Spain, Portugal, Poland, and Greece, and the other side are the EU candidate countries, North Macedonia, Serbia. Why do I emphasize this dividing line? Because of these directives, these documents, all of this legal framework, which is, as I know, obligatory in EU member states, and it is desirable, I say this, for North Macedonia and Serbia. And North Macedonia and Serbia made some progress, but I think in this respect cannot compare to these four countries. There is a European green transition policy. Of course, results are not as expected, but some progress has been made, as you all know. But as I see from the results of the national reports, even within these four countries, there are different practices in terms of these just transition processes and green social dialogue. So in order to make this comparative analysis more fruitful, more valid, I propose something that some of you sent to me as proposals. Malgorzata, Angel, some other colleagues pointed to some of the project proposals, goals, and objectives. So I propose, this is still a proposal, the final comparative analysis or report, that five of these aspects or dimensions could be of great importance. First, we have general situation, social dialogue. Second, we have the impact of the European Green Transition Policy and national collective bargaining. Third, we have the implementation of the just transition in general and specifically with regard to the green transition. Fourth, we have the existence or non-existence in some examples of collective agreements that implement aspects related to the green transition. And finally, we have collective bargaining practices in response to the challenges of the green transition. I hope you find it also useful for this comparative analysis. Now I will show it in 10 minutes some conclusions, which are also open for discussion and debate, like any other statement and conclusion that I made based on national reports. As far as general social dialogue is concerned, I think we can all agree that Spain is the most advanced country participating in the project. Other EU member states are lagging behind. I think I presented from the selected conclusions from the Spanish National Report some proof for my claim. In Portugal, for example, as I stated and as I read from the Portuguese national report, neoliberal policies have weakened the trade unions and undermined collective bargaining. So it's no doubt it all impacts the green transition process. The Polish industrial relation system is fragmented with low union density and decentralized collective bargaining, which, in my opinion, also leads to a similar conclusion that this situation is rather more difficult than, for example, in Spain. As for Greece, my conclusion, based on this national report findings, that economic crisis impacted or influenced the green transition process. In North Macedonia and Serbia, social dialogue and collective bargaining are rather underdeveloped, with the, I think, notable exception of the public sector in North Macedonia. I presented some results of this desk analysis. But we can agree that the general situation of industrial relations in Serbia and Macedonia is lagging behind these four countries, especially behind Spain. As far as the impact of the European Green Transition Policy on national collective bargaining is concerned, we have a similar situation. Here too, in my opinion, Spain is leading the way, although all the EU countries involved in the project have transposed EU initiatives and directives into national laws, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong. As mentioned above, Spain has introduced two new elements related to environmental sustainability. I presented this on the beginning of this presentation, so I wouldn't repeat this, but I draw your attention to this fact. As for Portugal, according to colleagues from Portugal, this country adopted the climate framework law in 2021, followed by a series of measures aimed at the just transition, the process of greening the economy. Poland's national strategy includes the aforementioned documents. So it's a document that's needed by countries. To my knowledge, although Greece has made some progress with its ongoing initiatives, such as the decarbonization of the shipping industry and the energy transformation of the coastal fleet, the green transitions is, as stated already, primarily driven by European initiatives rather than local contributions. Of course, this is also open to clarification and debate from our discussion from our Greek colleagues. And finally, while North Macedonia and Serbia have made some progress in adopting EU directives, I'm not sure that besides colleagues from North Macedonia and us from Serbia, that there is a green agenda for the Western Balkans, and Serbia and I think North Macedonia have signed this to be members of this initiative, but this national legislation in these two countries lags significantly behind these EU member states that are participating in the project. As for the implementation of just transition, this is, of course, largely determined by two previously analyzed aspects. Although there is a significant discrepancy between the legal framework and the actual situation in this process in all countries, in my opinion, this discrepancy is smallest in Spain, mainly due to various legislative initiatives to promote sustainable development in Spain, as presented in this presentation, and originally, of course, in Spanish national report. The introduction in Portugal, for example, showed that just transition concepts are mainly discussed in the public administration, and they are absent in the dialogues on urban transport. So it also shows a gap between this framework and its implementation. In Poland, just transition is perceived differently in different sectors, with trade union representatives knowing little about the specifics of the European Green Deal, if my conclusion of the Polish desk analysis and the results are correct. Of course, the situation in Greece has been impacted for a long term by economic crisis. So here I remind you something that Greek colleagues emphasize, something that is expected, an equal risk assessment for workers' health and safety in different sectors and organizations. In my opinion, it shows that in the situation regarding the green transition and social dialogue, Greece is behind, for example, Spain. Again, in Northern Macedonia and Serbia, the green transition has not yet started in reality. But if we analyze the situation in these two countries, we had to remember the consequences of the post-socialist transition or transformation, which was anything but fair in both of these countries. Again, maybe Poland, as a former socialist state, can relate to this, but of course, North Macedonia, Serbia could, in many aspects, can be regarded as countries of very difficult, how could I put it, this economic post-socialist transition. And given the lack of real social dialogue in these countries, we can expect new risks and inequalities to emerge during the green transition. In terms of collective bargaining practices in response to the challenges of the green transitions, in Spain, although situation is rather favorable at least in my opinion, there is a need for some improvements in terms of greater sensitization of workers, employers, and citizens in general, including development of legislation, etc., etc. For example, some of the results from focus groups, participants lamented the lack of training and information for workers on sustainability and environmental protection, for which both employers and trade unions are held responsible. Also, the prevention of occupational risks are also being neglected in light of the digital transformation and the energy transition. In Portugal, respondents, for example, point to the trade unions' lack of technical expertise, so they have difficulties to tackle the problems of the green transition in the world of work. In Poland, for example, employers emphasize the lack of clear transition strategy, of course, from the government to address these challenges, while trade unions are generally critical of the European Green Deal because the potential social costs and the speed of the proposed changes. These changes, of course, entail new risks and inequalities for workers in some sectors. In Greece, for example, respondents point to the lack of comprehensive risk assessment for workers' health and safety, which requires detailed studies and proactive measures. Respondents in North Macedonia and Serbia also report that generally there is no collective bargaining in response to the challenges to the green transition, and this is, I think, the most important conclusion. As for collective agreements that implement aspects of the green transition, they are, in my opinion, very present in Spain, thanks to the sustainable mobility law that oblige companies to negotiate sustainable mobility plans in the workplace, with workers being legally represented. Of course, there are several sectoral collective agreements, as already said. In Portugal, there is one conclusion that was interesting to me. Despite the examples of circular economy and some green competencies mentioned in collective agreements, sustainability is not directly mentioned in this agreement. So green transition issues are not addressed in really substantive way. In Poland, there are some collective agreements. So there are some improvements in that regard, but these are, correct me if I'm wrong, just some examples of these agreements. It's not a gender policy, as I understood. Some of the results of the focus groups in Greece, these concepts have been integrated into social dialogue and collective bargaining, but in my opinion, but only at the normative reality level. In reality, the green clauses are missing in most collective agreements, if I understood correctly results from Greece. And finally, the collective agreements in North Macedonia and Serbia do not contain any environmental clauses at all. Thank you for your attention, and this is on Miriam's insisting famous disclaimer. This is these views only views of the author of this final report. Of course, they are these conclusions are based on your inputs from your national reports. I apologize if I misunderstood them, and this is something that could be something to discuss. Thank you. I think this is all I had to say for the first part of this final conference. Let me just okay. Now we have 15 minutes for comments and discussions on this comparative report proposal. This is also my responsibility. I'm not sure who raised the hand first. Nuno, Constantina, Lazar, maybe you know.
No, sorry, Nuno raised first his hand.
Yes, please, Nuno.
Thank you, Constantina. Susan, thank you very much for your efforts. I know that you're doing a lot of efforts. This comparative report is not being paid. Perhaps information arrived late, so I think you did a very great job with the materials that you have at the time that you have. And thank you very much for that. I think it's a good improvement. But I'd like also to add one aspect that I consider to be relevant in this discussion, which is it's not always clear in all these countries what is the level of social dialogue and what is the level of collective bargaining. There are two different aspects. Sometimes they can be difficult to differentiate, but the introduction of the social dialogue aspect here could help. Okay, we know that there is barely any agreement done through collective bargaining on this topic, but in some areas, in some aspects, there might be some social dialogue going on, even if it is not formal or informal social dialogue, or sometimes public debates. And this is also could also be a form of social dialogue if they integrate partners, social partners. For example, here in my country, in Portugal, we don't really have collective agreements, but we do have some social dialogue activities going on, more or less informal. And it also give us an idea of how strong these dynamic processes are being developed or not, or being integrated or not. Of course, it's very good to have the legal aspect of it, because it also creates a normalization of these processes. But also, if we separate a little bit the social dialogue from the collective bargaining, we might have a different, more differentiated perspective of what is going on in this project. I see many hands raised here, so I'll just finish here. Constantina, please.
Thank you, Nuno.
Thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Dusan. Thank you, Dusan, for the great work. One comment from the Greek side is that related to the point about the green transition in the comparative analysis, which is primarily driven by European initiatives here in Greece. What I would like to mention is that this expresses a little bit the complex reality in which Greece's environmental reforms, though visible in sectors such as shipping and energy, which is largely shaped by external rather than internal forces. Actually, the European Union has acted as the principal driver of the country's green transition, providing both regulatory direction and financial support through some kind of mechanism, such as the European Green Deal, the Recovery and the Resilience Facility. But what I would like to mention also is that the Greek government has made meaningful contributions by aligning national policy with European Union objectives, supporting renewable energy investments, reforming the energy market, and promoting key initiatives such as the decarbonization of the maritime sector and the expansion of green infrastructure. However, the transformative momentum has not primarily emerged from grassroots activism, societal pressure, or autonomous national vision. Instead, it is predominantly a top-down process shaped by Greece's obligation to comply with European Union frameworks. And also, one crucial issue here in Greece is the long-standing economic crisis, which has significantly influenced this dynamic. The crisis actually weakened state capacity, reduced public investment, and shifted national priorities toward fiscal consolidation and economic recovery, and often at the expense of environmental leadership and the participatory policy making. Thus, in this context, Greece became more reliant on European Union funds and guidance to implement its green agenda. And as a result, the green transition in Greece is best understood as a process driven by supranational imperatives and government compliance, rather than by a vibrant, locally driven environmental movement or a proactive, resource-rich national strategy. So this is something that I would like to mention regarding this point in the comparative analysis. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not aware who is next. Maybe Lazar. Angel, Lazar. Lazar freezed. While we are waiting for Lazar, maybe Małgorzata can join the discussion. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think one of my comments is that the selection of key findings, in case of at least in the case of Poland, I wouldn't call all of them key findings, like, for instance, the statement that concerning the structure of the public sector, it's not a key finding. It was just part of the description of the public sector and the transport sector, because those were the sectors which we focused on, and it's not a key finding that the public sector includes I don't know, care, education, or other sectors. So, and also, and on the other hand, some other key findings were not included, like the situation in the transport sector regarding the collective agreements only. So, so I think the summary of findings needs to be revised to sort of to focus on the key issues and to ignore others. And also regarding the policy framework, it's true that actually probably the key document at the moment is the National Environment and Climate Plan, but it's not a unique thing about Poland. It's, I mean, each EU member has to have such a plan, but probably what better characterizes the Polish situation is that Poland doesn't have a national green transition strategy, which and only relies on this national environmental and climate plan. Plus, it has an energy strategy, which currently is already, I mean, needs to be updated. So, just a second, I think it would be helpful to have. I realized that national inputs were different, and different aspects were more elaborated, and others were less elaborated. So it was difficult to prepare a more uniform, in terms of structure, a more uniform presentation of the situation in the different countries. But I think it would be helpful if you could like try to make it more to follow the same structure. So, for instance, if in discussing certain countries, you highlighted that the trade unions major focus is on wages and I don't know, worker rights. I don't remember which country was it, but I think it's true for all of the countries. Yes, and so I think it would be helpful to see what is common among the countries and what is different, and not necessarily to only to portray separately each country, but maybe to try to think what is common, what is different, and yeah. And finally, I just wanted to to say that I don't agree with the statement that there is little knowledge about the European Green Deal among the Polish trade unions. The situation is that there is limited knowledge, in the sense that this knowledge is limited to the energy sector is aware what is in the what the European Green Deal means in terms of energy transition, and the transport sector knows about the electrification of transport and so on. But they have no. I think most of them haven't heard about circular economy, for instance, which is also part of the European Green Deal. So maybe I was not. What I said in my national report was not clear enough, and that led you to this misconclusion, so to say. So I just wanted to straighten it out. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your valuable input, Lazar or Angel. Lazar.
Thank you, Dusan. Hello again to everybody. I'm sorry I have some kind of technical problems before a few minutes, and now I am again with you. First of all, I would like to congratulate about ending this project. This is the final conference, and I think that we make a good job, especially from the point of view that we touch a very specific and very rare area from the social dialogue, and we connected this project, actually connected the social dialogue, collective bargaining, like a tool in the social dialogue with the environment, with the European Green Deal, and in the specific sectors, traffic and public sector. This is, from my point of view, is not very usual, not very often in the analyzes. When the scholars analyze this, they don't have this kind of approach. They have more general approach, and especially when we speak about the European Green Deal, the focus is in the energy industry, in the metal industry, in that kind of industry who have a more pollution and who have a different impact to the environment. But this project proved, from my point of view, for my opinion, that actually we make some kind of revolutionary steps forward, because we touch some sectors who are not so much analyzed before, and they don't have maybe from the others so much interest to analyze how this kind of stuffs are made in this sectors, public and transport. So about that, congratulations to everybody. Thanks for the Dusan. I will be focused only to the comparative analysis, because this is discussion about that. Maybe later we discuss more from the other aspects, but from the comparative analysis, I can say that it was very solid for my point of view, and from what is meant for the Macedonian law and Macedonian circumstances about the social dialogue. I think that Dusan represent correctly using the national report, and also I think that it was very good for me to see the others from the comparative analysis, the others country situations. So it was very useful. Of course, what my dear colleague Malgorzata say that yes, it can be okay if we if you make Dusan maybe some kind of comparative analysis who will compare the similar and the differences between the national systems. But I will not comment about that. This is the approach of the experts. So yes, this is the methodology how we can use. But I agree with Malgorzata that it is very good approach if we do in the future analysis like that, because in the first side we have opportunity to see the common things, what is the similarity, and what are the differences between the legal systems and the practice of the collective bargaining between the social partners. That's it. I am very satisfied from this presentation of Dusan, and thank you, Dusan, again. And I hope that this project will have a very strong echo, very, very strong sound after the finishing this project. And I hope that we will have a chance to collaborate again, our universities and we in the other aspects of this very, very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Angel, please, your comments.
Sí, muchas gracias, Dusan. Bueno, en primer lugar, yo quiero
Thank you, Dusan. Very well. In the beginning, I would like to tell you all that I was not present, regrettably, at the meeting on the 9th of May. This meeting was held in English, and unfortunately, I don't speak that language, and I couldn't attend the expert meeting for that reason. The decision about the final shape of the comparative report will be taken by all of us, the experts. But I would like to share a number of opinions. And I am not entirely happy with the document that Dusan presented. But this meeting is for all of us to present our opinions in a peaceful manner, in a respectful manner. So I believe that we all need to have a good look at the document and make some meaningful amendments. For example, the amendment that Małgorzata proposed, that we need to amend some elements for the Polish part, but I also propose that all of the conclusions and key findings be amended. First of all, I think I would formulate the comparative report on the basis of the desk research and the interviews. However, I can see some differences. In Spain, there were few findings from Spain that would originate from the interviews. There was just only key findings from the desk research. So I believe this should be amended. If we want to produce a document with significant scientific value, I believe we need to enrich it, to, for example, show similarities and differences between the countries, compare situations between these countries, but also compare the information that was provided by our respondents that participated in interviews and focus group discussions. So based on the interviews and based on the information from the national reports, I believe there was much more information that could have made its way to the comparative report. So I believe this is an unused potential. I think that there was too much information about this too much information about the desk research and too little about the interviews. So I believe the structure is a little imbalanced. I believe that the structure of this report should be more or less balanced. Because when I look at the comparative report, I expect to look at comparative information between countries. So I don't know what the social dialogue is in the individual countries of our partnership. I know the social dialogue in Spain. I don't know about other countries. I think that we should not try to present a ranking of countries, like this country is the most advanced and this country is less advanced. We should just present factual information. We should not present it as a valuation, like this country is better and this country is not so good, because it's not the ultimate objective of our project and of our comparative report. But of course, I'm speaking from my perspective and I'm presenting my own opinion. But also, I like some elements in your presentation. We are talking about the green transition, and then we are moving on to legislation. However, these topics are a bit different because the policies are shaped by politicians and the social dialogue is something that happens between the social partners. Of course, sometimes the government is involved if it's a tripartite, dialogue. Also, when speaking about the transition, at some point you said that the transition is there because there are some legislative initiatives. In my opinion, it's different. Just transition is all about employee participation through their representatives in improving their working conditions in the context of the twin transition. So I believe that this definition is wrong because legislation has nothing to do with employee participation, in my opinion. Well, I do not want to start a new topic here, but I believe you have made a lot of effort, and I realize that a lot of work has been done after the 9th of May. And it is true, we have made some progress, but I believe this document is very much only a draft, and it's very far from the comparative report that we want to present as the deliverable of our project. If I am a person who is seeing a comparative report for the first time, I am expecting something else. There should be information about social dialogue, collective bargaining, just transition, etc. And also, there should be the national plans. They are not only typical for Poland. Every EU member state has one because they were obliged to implement them, just like our colleague from Greece also said it. So I can read this report and I know that all of us worked on this, but if I was reading this for the very first time, I wouldn't even know what we were doing for the past 2 years. I'm sorry if my opinion, my personal opinion is too critical, but that's what I think. And of course, I do not want to force you to conform to any criteria that I deem relevant. But if this is to be a final document that we want to present, Spain will not oppose it, but I believe it should be amended. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angel. In 2 minutes, just to respond to some, of course, this is still just a proposal, and I put some effort in improving the first draft of the document. So, well, it's difficult to put all of this in 30 pages. Well, the final report should be in 30 pages, and we have to present national specifics and some comparative analysis. So we have to have in mind that it is only 30 pages. Of course, all of these proposals are very good. Thank you again for this, and I will try in next days to improve this version of the comparative report. So of course I heard all of your proposals, and I will try to make an improvement and to get to the final stage of the comparative report. Well, I'm sorry that Angel couldn't participate in this previous meeting because he said that there is too much information from the desk research, and comments on the first draft was that there was no information from the desk research. So it's some kind of controversy there. Yes. Małgorzata, and later we could
Okay,
have a
I
coffee break.
just wanted to say that the Polish chapter doesn't have any information from the desk, so that's dependent on the country, and currently the Polish chapter is is like a set of quotations from the national report. And if you, as you said, 30 pages is not a big volume for the task, but this means that quotations do not work in such a case. You just need to make a synthesis of the findings, and in case of the Polish chapter, which is now just excerpts from the national report, it should be a synthesis based both on the report on the interviews and on the desk. Yes. So I'm afraid that it's unavoidable to make really a very concise synthesis of whatever is available of the available material, and then to use it for discussing the results. I mean, for using those for analysis. And I agree with Angel that we shouldn't make a ranking of the countries, and instead using such words like more advanced, less advanced. I mean, the country is very advanced or something. Just I think it's better to describe exactly the situation. Yes, that this country has. I mean, two countries have developed their own legal framework for green transition compared to others which rely only on the national environmental climate plans or something like that. Okay, so that's all from my side.
Okay, just a quick response. The document from this morning had some information from the desk analyst. Of course, you didn't have time to read it, but in the future days you can see what was amended to this report. If you are referring to this first draft, I made some transformation, some changes. So there are some information from the desk analysis. Of course, it can be improved, and it will be improved based on your proposals. That's okay. No ranking, but I adopted the EU political EU manner of evaluating different countries. So it's my sin. Don't judge me for that. It will be gone. It will be gone. Yeah, but in my opinion, when we will discuss it later, in my opinion, the Spanish example is maybe the most appropriate comparatively. But okay. If you agree, we are lagging behind the schedule. Maybe the coffee break should be until quarter after 12, 20 and 27 minutes. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. See you in 26 minutes. Next activity is a presentation of good practices and policy recommendations, or the policy document as it is translated by the coordinators from Spain. I will again share this PowerPoint file with you. Okay, Angel has raised hand. If I see correctly, Angel.
Sí, gracias, Dusan. Creí que no me habías visto.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dusan, very much. I thought you didn't see my hand.
Ibas a elaborar una nueva versión, incorporando una serie de las propuestas.
It seems to me that since a new version of this document will need to be drafted to incorporate all of our comments, I wanted to go back to the topic we were discussing before the break. It seems to me that Miriam will stay with us and will clarify any doubts. I know that we have very little time left to close this topic and to carry out the comparative analysis and develop recommendations. So I wanted to clarify the deadlines so that we are able to update the comparative report. It seems to me that we need to define a realistic timeline. Let's say by the 31st of May, that would be enough time for us to consult each other and conclude the matter of the comparative report. We will have enough time to make some final amendments. So I believe that the 31st of May will be a good time to close this task, this activity. It will also give us sufficient time to develop the final version of this document in our project, because we still need to translate it into 6 languages of the project partners. We need to send the final document to the European Commission. So we also have the website that we need to assess. It is a major process, so I would suggest the 31st of May as the deadline for this specific task.
Yes, I must ask Angel to coordinate with Miriam and to send, Miriam should send to us the steps with the timeline for these activities. Does it include your comments on this improved version of the draft until May 31st, or final version of the? In my opinion, it means that the final version of the all documents should be ready in May, until the end of May. Yeah, so we need the detailed timeline for your comments. Should you maybe send your comments to Miriam and she send it to me, or should you directly send it to me? It doesn't matter, as long as we make agreement about this. So tomorrow I ask Miriam to consult with Angel and to send to us the detailed time frame of these last activities on these final documents, if it's agreed. Because I didn't understand, Angel, about this. Angel, maybe you can clarify.
Sí, no, a ver, mi propuesta era no, lo de enviar documentos.
Yes, so my proposal was the following. We should send the documents by the 31st of May. So the point is for us to express all of our comments. I believe that we took notes and we know more or less what needs to be added. It seems to me that the 27th of May, from the 27th to the 31st, this is the time when we could make these changes. If nobody has anything against, I think that each of the project partner could send us a document with the comments and maybe additional conclusions, or maybe some comments on the final shape of the document. And in such a way, by the 31st of May, we could close this work. So the 27th will be the deadline for the final draft, and 31st the final deadline for the submission of the finalized documents to the European Commission. Miriam, would you like to add anything from yourself? Thank you, Angel. My proposal is the following. I agree with Angel's proposal. If Dusan is able to send his modified version earlier, that would be better. If it's ready for the 27th, that would be great because we would have some extra time. Until the end of the month, we need to have the final version, as Angel has said. Then the document needs to be translated. It needs to be printed out. So we have time until the 30th of June, for other measures. We need to disseminate the report and we need time for that as well. So if Dusan agrees, Dusan, please prepare the new updated final version by the 27th of May. Then partners will have 2 or 3 days to add some comments. And to make this process even more streamlined, we could meet online on the 30th of May. I understand that Angel cannot participate in this meeting if no interpreting is provided, but we could meet on the 30th of May in our group so that we are able to get the final document on the 2nd of June. If everybody agrees, and if everybody really commits to provide the comments by the 27th of May, this is how we can proceed. So do you agree? Do you agree?
Yeah, but please send us all an email with this information. So it's not clear for me. Do I have to wait for another comments in writing from all of these participants, or should I from today make the final version? So this is the last comments from all the participants. No written comments. Yes. I understand differently. I understand that that there will be comments from all the participants in next 7 days, and later I maybe I didn't understand it well. Okay.
Malgorzata, adelante y ahora lo volvemos a insistir.
Malgorzata, go ahead, and later on I will speak.
Okay, I'm planning to send my comments, which will be more detailed than what I said today, because I didn't want to take too much time going into some details. So I will, I think by tomorrow you can expect my more detailed comments.
De acuerdo, gracias. Bueno, pues yo creo que vamos a cerrar. Tampoco vamos a debatir mucho.
Thank you very much.
Presentación de documentos o no.
Okay. I think we don't need to discuss it in detail, but I think the following. By the 9th of May, everybody was obliged to submit a written document. We held an online meeting without my participation dedicated to the discussion of it. So Dusha defended my own document because I was absent from the meeting. I do understand that Małgorzata would like to submit her comments in writing and send them by tomorrow, but if somebody fails to do so, it doesn't mean that they do not want that their comments expressed today would not be taken into account. I believe that we should do some note taking, and it is not necessary for us to prepare a written version of our comments. So I believe that our comments should be, our spoken comments should be taken into account. But nevertheless, if somebody wants to submit their documents in writing, please do it by tomorrow. And then I would like to ask Dusan to integrate our spoken comments by the 27th of May in his final draft. And then we will have some time to still read through and comment upon this document modified by Dusan. Of course, it would be nice for us to have more time, but we are already late. So we cannot really send any additional documents back and forth. This is the only way forward. I believe that the best way of sending any documents, so passing any documents in between partners, the best idea is to ask Miriam to serve as an intermediary. In such a way, we will be certain that some documents are being forwarded. So please ask Miriam to forward the documents rather than doing it directly. Okay, so let me hand the mic back to Dusan so that we can move on with the meeting.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share. I hope you can all see this document. This is a separate presentation, but it will be a part of the comparative report. So because of the schedule, of the timeline, of the time frame of this conference, it was separated into the first part of the presentation with some findings from the national report, some comparative analysis, and this final part of the second part of the presentation with the good practices and policy recommendations. I was well, we spoke about this, and I will definitely change this. But in my opinion, thanks to this, based on these results of the desk analysis, the overall Spanish context of social dialogue and collective bargaining in the green transition process can be highlighted as a whole as an example of good practice. But if you oppose to this evaluation, I will change it in comparison to other countries involved in the project. Let's say something of a critique about the Spanish situation. Of course, this is based on the national report from Angel. Significant improvements are still needed to sensitize all stakeholders in the world of work to the importance of the processes mentioned and to improve the legal framework in order to reduce the gap between policy and the real needs of workers and citizens in general in this regard. So these processes of green transition and social dialogue in regard to this process of green transition needs to be improved in every country and of course in all European countries, members or candidate countries for the European Union. my conclusion based on the Portuguese report was the respondents were unable to provide concrete examples of good practice in the field of social dialogue and collective agreements in the context of the green transition at national, sectoral, and company level, apart from some individual initiatives. Nevertheless, the Portuguese interviewees said that the promotion of good practices should include the identification and dissemination of successful examples of green social dialogue and just transition measures from other sectors or countries. This is also observed, identified in our research in Serbia, where the respondents could name some how they put it successful examples or examples of good practices. Polish respondents also find it difficult to identify good practices for social dialogue and collective bargaining in the context of green transition, but nevertheless, employers considered regular dialogue with workers at company level, including meetings between management, workers, and the social partners to maintain the flow of the information and reduce fears and uncertainties as an example of good practice. So this is a general aspect of social dialogue and collective bargaining and not something that is specific with the green transition, something specific to green transition. But if we have in mind that there are some collective agreements in energy sector and some other sectors that we heard of, maybe it could apply to this green transition process in Poland and in general in Europe. As for trade union representatives in Poland in the energy sector, they cited the successful mobilization of the government employees by the trade unions to negotiate to collective agreement for the leading mining and conventional energy sectors as a positive example, even as it was stated in the report, even if the measures finally agreed did not fully satisfy the trade union side. Maybe it is also a point for discussion. Finally, interviewees in North Macedonia and Serbia, interviewees and focus groups participants could not provide domestic example of good practice. However, as a positive example, for example, in North Macedonia, we can mention the sensitization of employers, trade union leaders, and members to the importance on the urgency of these issues, because some focus group participants and some interviewees in Serbia tried to show that they are thinking about these measures to happen in the future. The national report of North Macedonia also gives examples of companies that have embraced the digitalization. It's an interesting example from our colleagues from North Macedonia, which can be considered an important part of the green transition. Some big companies in the North Macedonia take the lead in this process of digitalization. Here are the names of these companies, and it's an interesting insight. In addition, trade union leaders in Serbia primarily cite certain countries as examples of good practice. These are all the conclusions from the statements of the focus group participants or interviewees. Norway is named as one of the European examples, and Slovenia is one of the regional examples. Of course, Slovenia is also in Europe, but Slovenia and Serbia share similar past and historical circumstances as a part of former Yugoslavia. Again, some examples are mainly cited by managers from the transport sector. They think that that's a good measure in Norway, but I suppose not only in Norway, but they know about the Norwegian experience. to subsidize the purchase of electric vehicles, to exempt transport companies with such vehicles from paying tolls and bridge tolls, etc., etc. As far as Slovenia is concerned, I think one focus group participant from the trade union leader said that municipality of Velenje stands out as a good example because of the process of the shutting down the only remaining coal-fired thermal power plant in the country, the Shortany thermal power plant and the Velenje coal mine. These are, of course, connected economic subjects, coal mine and thermal power plant. Through the use of appropriate strategic, legal and other measures, the process of closing the aforementioned companies as part of the green transition has not jeopardized the social security and jobs employees and has enabled a much cleaner environment in this part of Slovenia, which was awarded some European prize for clean environment, clean municipality, and green municipality. As for policy recommendations, I was not confident to offer you improved version of this. As you all know, in the first draft, I based my this part of the comparative report on almost entirely on the proposals from Spanish colleagues, colleague Angel. So I just needed input from you and your opinion, and I will devote next few days in writing down these policy recommendations, because I'm not sure how to approach this. My second idea was to introduce several categories of recommendations, and I think I have your support on this, but I need real verification that it's okay with you. General and of course Angel's proposals have to do much about this. If I remember correctly, Angel said that some proposals from Spain have a general nature and could apply to all other countries in the project, while some proposals are country specific or valid only for Spain. So I will just present you here all of these practical recommendations, and ask you just to instruct me how to approach to this, and I will try to follow your proposals. You all remember this Spanish recommendation. I think all of them are very, very, very good, and majority of them could be valid for all of our countries. But the situation regarding green social dialogue is different. So some of these measures apply only to Spain, or maybe some other country from the European Union. So let me briefly guide you through this. You all have this in this previous version of the draft of the proposal of the comparative report. I divided it on two or three slides, every category of recommendations. Training and education. You'll see. Third category is strengthening collective bargaining, sustainable development, and corporate commitment. And finally, fourth category is guaranteeing the rights of workers in sustainability and ecological and digital developments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I managed to extract these policy recommendations from Portugal. Improving the technical skills, it's rather specific, but I think all of our trade unions need to improve these technical skills, including, of course, employers and relevant institutions. Second one is developing comprehensive education programs, etc. Next, creation of specific financial and legal mechanisms, and etc. Strategic emphasis on cross-cutting collaboration between the public sector, private sector, and civil society organizations. While we are not opposing this. Specific proposals included the need for targeted training of trade unions and business representatives. Well, it's similar to this category of training proposed by Spanish colleague. The creation of specialized working groups, the imperative need to structure sectoral social dialogue tables that ensure active and etc. Participation, focus policy measures on education and capacity building. Well, some of these may be put into one of the four proposed categories by Angel. As for Poland, I hope I get it right. There are also several categories of recommendations: sectoral and cross-sectoral social dialogue, guaranteeing workers' rights through collective bargaining, support adaptation of employees to the changes taking place. This is a very vast one. And finally, if I remember correctly, support employee involvement in reducing the company's environmental footprint. Maybe just to analyze some of these, environmental education. We all need this, all citizens, all employees. Incentive systems also interesting. Incentives, bonus for taking over initiatives and proposing solutions. Everything is very interesting. Greek colleagues proposed a rather different approach. They are offering some broader categories, if I may say so. Value proposition, employers encouraging. Well, maybe some of these can be added to some of previously mentioned categories. New bargaining strategies, strategies of the European Economic and Social Committee, and how it is tailored to national differences. Further action by member states, of course, it's always usable and valuable. And the next category, the discussion referring to ecological issues in collective bargaining concerns negotiable clauses between the social partners. Well, that was said already. And finally, there are some policy recommendations from North Macedonia and Serbia. Colleague Lazar and myself took somewhat different approach with the formulating recommendations applicable for our countries. Of course, some of these can be transposed and translated to other countries and applied in other countries. Commitment to employers to support sustainability objectives like cutting waste, etc. This is a general behavior according to green transition. Collective agreements can be formal foundation for including these responsibilities, including clauses in collective bargaining agreements, etc. Training programs, new green job opportunities within the company or companies, implementing recycling programs, establishing green teams, advocating the use of more ecologically friendly building materials, etc. Of course, trade unions must work with employers to support the implementation of the specific environmental rules at all levels. And finally, recommendations that are applicable for Serbia. further development and improvement of the institutional framework in relation to the green transition. In my opinion, problem with Serbia is the lack of commitment to European documents and European directives, although some improvements have been made in energy sector, in adopting these key European documents. It is in my national report, so if you are interested, you will read it there. Raising the awareness of the important role of activities of trade unions in social dialogue and collective bargaining in general, and specifically in the green transition process. Implementation of the above concepts and processes. We have institutional backdrop and institutional problems in Serbia you are all aware of, and it also includes the process of economic transformation, including the green transition. Well, of course, details can be read in my national report. Trade unions must focus their activities on primarily on the sectors with the greatest challenges to the position and rights of workers in the transition to green economy. We had trade union leaders who said that the energy sector in Serbia, which is in part of the public sector, will be experiencing great disturbances in terms of losing jobs and need for training, retraining, acquiring new skills, etc., etc. In Serbia, I don't know about other countries, but I think it might be the similar situation, but it was not mentioned in an international report. The regional dimension of the green transition must also be taken into account. In Serbia, there are vast regional inequalities regarding the economic position and the development of different sectors. So it would be a very, very important task to fulfill in the process of green transition if we want to be at least a partly a just transition to workforce. And finally, various aspects of equality and non-discrimination should also be taken into account. Of course, we should pay attention to gender issue, to issue of older workers. In some reports, it is expected for younger workers to actively engage in trade union activities, but in Serbia, for example, we have the situation where younger workers do not want to have anything to do with trade unions. They think that trade unions are obsolete, that they are not needed, and that they could not help them in improving their work situation and work rights. Well, so this is my unusual approach about this, but I needed your input in order to have the collective mind of the group in order to proceed to finishing my this part of the final report. So please let us discuss this approach. If you think it is plausible to maybe classify these different recommendations into maybe general recommendations, recommendations maybe for EU countries, because their positions is really different, maybe recommendations for EU candidate countries, North Macedonia, Serbia, and maybe a country-specific recommendation. This was my idea. Please let us have all discussion about this. Thank you. Angel, please.
Sí, gracias. A ver, yo
Thank you.
por seguir además la misma dinámica que estamos utilizando hasta ahora, yo entiendo que debería de, en
Previously,
este capítulo de recomendaciones dentro
I
del
have
informe
to
comparativo,
say
recuerdo que no es
that
un
this
documento
part
diferente,
focusing on
parte
recommendations, which
recomendaciones,
obviously makes
deberíamos de
part of the
simplemente lo que hace
comparative
hasta ahora, es hacer un
report,
pequeño análisis de las propuestas de
it
cada uno de los países y
should
finalizar con una
contain an analysis
lluvia
of
de
proposals made
recomendaciones
by
que
each
sirvan
of the
para todos
country,
los
and we
países.
should
Esa es mi
conclude with a
opinión.
list of
Y al
recommendations,
final,
a list of
los
recommendations
gestores
that would be
siempre es el país en
appropriate
cuestión,
for
somos los que
our state.
participamos
So
y
we
el
have
resultado debería de servir
6
a todos
project
y cada uno de
partners.
esos países.
The
Así que
outcome
esto es
should
lo
be
que
useful for all of us.
no creo que haga falta
Obviously,
recordar, pero
the
sí que
task is not
comento
simple.
que el objetivo primero era mejorar la
Let
relación
me
entre los
remind all
países
of us
para
that our objective
contribuir a
is to
mejorar la
improve
responsabilidad ambiental en Europa.
employees'
Para eso
relationships
hemos
in
realizado una
order
fase de investigación
to
con una serie de evaluaciones
broaden the
que
awareness of
analizaban los
environmental
impactos
issues.
que producían
This is why we
estas
carried out
políticas
an extensive analysis and we
tanto en
analyzed
la
the impact
transición
of
ecológica
EU
como en la
policies
negociación colectiva
on
o en el
the
diálogo
energy
social. Yo creo
transition
que eso es lo que
and
deberíamos de ver.
on
El
collective
proyecto finaliza
bargaining and
iniciando
social dialogue.
los
So
gestores
these were the
estableciendo
objectives
recomendaciones
defined in
para
our
mejorar
project.
la teoría y
Our
la práctica de la
project needs to
negociación
conclude
colectiva
with
de la
recommendations aimed at improving
transición ecológica,
collective
verde
bargaining
en el marco de Europa.
in the
Esas
context of the
recomendaciones
green transition
deberían
in
de
the
ir
European
orientadas a
Union.
conseguir
So the
ese objetivo final
recommendations
y
should
ver
be focusing
cuáles
on the attainment of
todos
this
los
specific goal,
socios
and it
participantes.
should take into
Lo
account
que hemos
all of the
entretenido es
partner
hacer un
states of the
ejercicio que muy
project.
rápidamente, si me permitís, voy
So
a
very
describir,
briefly, if I may,
que creo que puede ser la
I
base sobre que
wanted to
salga
show you what I have
qué es lo que hemos
prepared
hecho aquí.
and what could be
Yo he
used as
estudiado
a
los documentos
basis
que habéis
for
presentado
our
cada
future
socio
work.
en
So
cuanto
I
a
have
recomendaciones
analyzed all of the documents that the
y
partners have
he
sent,
intentado, partiendo de mi documento
and
inicial que
I
presenté
have
en
tried,
nuestro evento en
obviously
Belgrado,
on the
que
basis
por
of the
cierto remitió
basic document that I
recientemente
presented in
partiendo
Belgrade
de ese
that was sent out to you, I believe, in
mejorar
January. So I
propuestas
used
cada uno
it
de los
as a
socios
starting
para
point
intentar
for
definir
my
qué
attempt
propuestas
at
tienen que ver con una mayoría de los
uh,
socios. Yo he
well,
tenido entonces
integrating the
que decir de las
proposals
propuestas,
of all of
lógicamente
the
no son muchas,
partners,
de las propuestas
selecting
que se
those
presentaron
that
en
could
su
be
momento,
appropriate
algunas
for all
son
of
muy
us.
generalistas
And Dushan
y
is right.
otras no son
Some of the
aplicables a
recommendations
todos
made
los
by Spain were
países
general,
y faltan
and
otras
others
propuestas
would not be
interesantes
applicable
que
to
sí
other
habéis hecho
states.
otros países.
And
Yo
obviously, we
espero
also
que
lack
este
interesting
documento que está de análisis
recommendations
comparativo
that could be generalized
permita,
from other
creo que sería
reports.
positivo. En la
So,
segunda
as a result,
hemos
the
puesto en marcha
comparative
campañas de
report should
awareness
highlight the
Polonia,
common
Portugal, Estonia
recommendations.
del Norte,
So, I have prepared some
y lo que he hecho ha
columns.
sido,
On the
en otras
right-hand
palabras,
side, you
intentar
can see the
unificar las
abbreviated
prioridades
names of our
principales que
partner
son
states.
generales de
And
todos
in
los
this way, I
países.
wanted to
Entonces,
identify
es
the
difícil
recommendations that
dejar de hablar de
overlap.
esto como
Well, some of them, as we
recomendaciones
have said, are
comparativas a las
general,
políticas
such as
empresariales.
participation,
Polonia, voy
consultations. So, some
aburrirles
general
con toda
steps
la
that could
información, pero hay
support ththese
sugerencias que son
processes.
específicas.
I
Algunas,
will
por
not
ejemplo,
go
pues,
into
una
details.
que
As I
sería
have
muy aprobada
mentioned,
por
some of the
muchos, el
recommendations
tema
are country
medioambiental y la
specific,
educación formal.
whereas
Esa es
others
otra
are
específica, yo
more
creo
general.
que yo
One of the
personalmente utilizaría en
Portuguese
España también. Entonces,
proposals
lo que he intentado hacer con eso es
concerns the
reproducir
inclusion of environmental matters
propuestas
into
cada una
school
en ese
curricula.
apartado y el
It's
objetivo
something
sería
that I
analizar
find
esos principales.
interesting.
¿Y cuáles
So all of the partners have presented their
no me
own
interesa
recommendations,
que mi país no
and
tenga
our
ninguna
goal was
empresa
to analyze them and
o
identify
las que
those
sean.
that
Pues, por
are
ejemplo,
or could be
mejorar
appropriate and
políticas sobre
relevant
la
to all
transición
of
verde.
us.
Esto lo han propuesto cada
Let me give you
socio.
yet another
Las
example.
distintas
To
fronteras
improve
que hay, se
the
trata de buscar alianzas que
organizational
sirvan para todos.
framework in the context
No
of
sé,
twin
promover
transition.
un diálogo sectorial entre
Well,
todas las partes.
this is something that could be
Es un
relevant
ejemplo, es algo que, por
to all
ejemplo,
of us, of the promotion
planteamos
of social
en otros
dialogue.
países. Ese era un poco
Poland has also prepared a recommendation that comes up in other reports as well. And this is why it seems to me that this is what we could include in general recommendations. So it seems to me that the introduction that Dusan has suggested is very useful. So the presentation of the point of view of each of our states, but our goal is to improve collective bargaining in the context of the green transition in the European Union. And such a comparative analysis could be useful to identify the recommendations that are relevant to all partner states and those that are not. And this is my proposal. Thank you.
Okay, if I may, I'm not sure I think that Angel didn't send it to Miriam, this table, this analysis. If not, please send it to everyone, so it could be a good help for me to make the final part of this comparative report, and a good help for everyone to better understand this process, because Angel is an expert with a long experience in these matters. So please, if it's okay, please send this file, or you can share it with us in the chat. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay. Does anyone else wants to comment on some of these? If not, it's time for Angel to present some more interesting and more attractive materials, infographics, if I remember correctly, infographics and other materials. Infographics, newsletter, and project dissemination video.
De acuerdo, vale. Pensé que iba a haber más debate sobre el tema de las recomendaciones.
Yes, so I thought that maybe we would have a debate, a discussion on the recommendations. No, I have not sent this document yet because I actually prepared it only yesterday so that I could use it today. But I think that I will send it to Miriam later on so that she could share it with us. It is a comparative analysis. Everybody can take a look and see if the recommendations of the specific country are taken into account. Yes, according to our agenda, now the time has come for the presentation of infographics and our promotional video, because our project is heading towards the end and we need to complete our activities, including those focusing on promotion. We have decided to prepare 4 infographics and a video that would be a deliverable and outcome of the research phases. Now, the first problem was the following. We didn't have the conclusions, the outcomes. We are still at the stage of developing outcomes, and we had to solve this video making problem in such a way. It was difficult to solve it, and we had to develop the infographics. We had to have them ready. All of them are already ready and are available on our website, as well as the video, which once again is available in the languages of all our partner states. We were obliged to comply with the schedule imposed by the European Commission and have them ready even before this part of the project is over. So once again, taking into account the objectives of our project that I will not yet once again repeat, we have prepared the infographics and I believe that you find them sufficient. And I also believe that you will agree that they meet our requirements given the situation we have found ourselves in. So these infographics are ready, and the topics they cover are the following. First of all, what are the sustainable development policies, the sustainable environmental development policies. Right now, I have I'm showing you the Spanish version, but as I have said, on our platform, you will find them in your languages as well. And I'm going to share with you the link to the platform so that all of you can see the infographics in your own languages. Now, the second infographic focuses on the topic of just transition. And this just transition is used as a basic element of the green social dialogue. So the second infographics comments upon these specific elements, the definition of the just transition, as well as the effects of this just transition and the Green Deal. So once again, I would like to apologize for the fact that it is now available here on our screen in Spanish. We have two more infographics that need to be prepared. We have not had enough time. We have not had enough time to identify usable information in our conclusions. So I was obliged to go through the reports and to prepare something that I found useful. I believe that it is consistent with Dushan's analysis that he prepared for today. If not, we can find a solution that would work for us, and we can modify the third and the fourth infographic. So the third infographic focuses on the following. The implementation of environmentally responsible approach in project partner states. I was inspired by the recommendations and by the analysis from your national reports. And in this infographic, I wanted to include the messages from each of our countries. And this is what the third infographic looks like. Well, unfortunately, the font size is quite small, so you probably cannot see it, but we wanted to include information from all of the national reports. So there are 2 paragraphs per country. And I want all of our partner countries to feel included. And the information about every country should be provided in the third infographic. What kind of information do we want to convey on the third infographic? In Spain, we mentioned the collective bargaining, and we say that the general public's awareness needs to be raised in this respect, that legislative changes must be made to converge what is happening in the policies with the real needs of the people, and Dusan already mentioned it. And as you can see, the contribution from Poland includes 2 sentences, And one is about the difficulties in finding good practices for social dialogue, and that the collective agreements have not been amended in response to the green transition. And also there is a mention that job preservation, job creation, and social protection for workers must be provided, because these are critical issues for the workers in Poland. These are the expectations of Polish workers of social dialogue. Okay, when it comes to Portugal, I also included 2 paragraphs. One of them is about environmental considerations in collective bargaining and social dialogue, because our colleagues are saying the social dialogue is limited in that respect, and the actors are not involved in sufficient degree. And also I mentioned here the absence of collective bargaining agreements, which could regulate these environmental issues during the transition period. And these aspects are making it difficult actually to negotiate between the partners when it comes to environmental issues. And the paragraph about Serbia is about the widespread lack of awareness of the basic issues actually related to green transition. And also I am speaking here about the initiatives that have been taken to move Serbia towards green economy, because Serbia is a candidate country and its legislation must converge to the EU legislation. And there are also some elements for North Macedonia in this infographic. And in this, we are saying that a unified approach is needed to strengthen environmental responsibility at companies. And also, there are some pressures, and employees must put some pressure on the employers to include the modern practices and best practices at companies. And in Greece, I want to include the following 2 paragraphs. One is about the main focus of social dialogue and collective bargaining on social protection. But also, I liked particularly some items from Greece's report, because we don't have that, and it's about identifying the green jobs and helping employees retain their jobs and create also some new ones. And also another paragraph is that the collective agreements in Greece have been amended, and now they take into consideration some environmental aspects. For example, such as sending reports every month or 2. Okay, I'm not sure if the information I included here you would also include, but this was my decision. I'm not sure if you as experts will deem the information the most relevant and the most important. I'm keen on hearing your opinions. And now let me move through to the 4th infographic. It's also in Spanish, at least in this example. And this is quite similar to the previous one. Based on my analysis of the national reports, I have handpicked some practices and recommendations which were, in my opinion, very often repeated in national reports. And I have selected them as the best recommendations. And one of them is to strengthen and guide collective bargaining on sustainable development. Another one is to also provide training. It's not comprehensive, but I believe I picked some of the strongest ones. And for the infographics, I believe we do not have to be comprehensive. We just need to convey the message and provide the gist of information. infographics has a limited space, so you cannot include everything. Also, we developed a video. It's been translated already. We'll see the English version of it. I hope the one you're going to see has Spanish subtitles. But on our project website, we have subtitles for every country of our partnership. So actually, we didn't have any findings from the research, which were supposed to be ready at the time of making the video. So it was me who put the key information in the film, the objectives of the project, the partners of the project, the research phase, the three elements of the methodology that Dusan mentioned, the key aspects we were focusing on, the Green Deal, the Green Social Dialogue, and the just transition, and also other elements which you can see in my slide. So I think if we include that in our video, it will be a good choice, it will be useful, and also I hope to include recommendations of general nature in the video. I think it's not going to be a problem if we proceed like that. Are we able to see the film right now, the short video, so that everybody can see it? And this will conclude my presentation. And also I am open for your comments and feedback. Can we see the video?
The CERP project on collective bargaining and environmental responsibility, challenges and perspectives for transport and public sector is funded by the EU. Led by the Spanish trade union CSIT Union Professional, the participants in the project included the University of Belgrade, Serbia Faculty of Philosophy, UTH Thessaly, Greece, Nova University Lisbon, Portugal, UKIM, North Macedonia, and the Institute of Public Affairs, Poland. The objective of CERP is to enhance labor relations experiences in order to contribute to environmental responsibility in Europe. During the implementation of the project, the impacts of European policies regarding the green transition on collective bargaining and social dialogue were analyzed. The project focuses on legislative proposals 2030 and 2050 aimed at aligning the EU's energy policies with the new climate goals set by the climate law. Workers are still unfamiliar with numerous aspects regarding the European Green Deal, the just green transition, or the existence of green social dialogue that would enable a proper energy transition in their workplaces. The level of implementation of environmental responsibility in labor relations in the partner countries of the CERP project varies across European countries, both member states and candidates, which have very different labor relations systems. The weakness of green collective bargaining calls for greater awareness of the topic, more legislative solutions to strengthen it, and closer alignment between political proposals, both European and Spanish, and the actual needs of citizens. The CERP project has helped to improve the knowledge of social partners and the scientific community regarding specific tools for worker participation and the progress of green collective bargaining. The results of the research conducted have provided recommendations to improve the contribution of social dialogue and collective bargaining in the domain of environmental responsibility. Strengthening and guiding collective bargaining on sustainable development and environmental responsibility in companies. while promoting workers' participation in decision-making processes with the aid of adequate information about the environment, or promoting effective sectoral and regional dialogue on sustainable development, climate change, and quality of the environment, are two of the recommendations most likely to make collective bargaining on environmental responsibility more effective.
Muchas gracias, Germán. Lázaro, tienes la palabra.
Thank you
quieras.
very much, Herman. Lazar, over to you.
Yeah, I will be very short. I succeed to see the video, and I can say great job. Thank you very much for this very good video, and also I saw the infographics. I think that they're very good. So that's it. Thank you very much. For video, I am very satisfied. For my point of view, very good. Very good. Thank you. And for the end, I will share the video not only on the university, I will share also in my fan page, also, and I will try in the Instagram to share, to be so much disseminate in the country, because I think it have a very good message. Thank you again.
Muchas gracias a ti, Lázaro, por tus palabras y por tu iniciativa y tu entusiasmo.
Thank you very much, Lazar, for your enthusiasm and for your active participation and for your opinion. Thank you. Very well. Okay. Our colleagues from Poland commented that the images have nothing to do with the project, and this is a very, very appropriate remark. But this is a promotional video. The most important element of it is the messages we want to promote. But it is true that the images don't relate to the content very much. But the general messages conveyed through the images is like taking care of the environment. I believe it's also a positive message, and it could be a good fit with our project. Is anyone else interested in commenting on this video or infographics? If not, then we can move on to the last item on our agenda. All right, no more feedback, no more comments. Then let's move on to discuss the final element on our agenda. Myself and Miriam sent a proposal to you by email, and it's a proposal from CSIT, the project beneficiary and leader. And this is a proposal to approach the EU and ask for the continuance of this project. We have already done this for other projects, and we have got to know each other really well in this project, and we would like to work together in the future. So perhaps we could come up with a project that could continue the topics of social dialogue, collective bargaining, etc. So we, as members of the EU, are under the obligation to continue some of the policies and promote some of the policies of the EU. There is this agenda until 2050 for climate neutrality. And I believe as member states, but also as candidate countries, we could definitely continue our work on a project of a similar nature. And we could, for example, again, conduct research, carry out some interviews, provide both quantitative and qualitative studies, and If you agree to do so, you could all sign the proposal, and then we could send it to the European Union, the European Commission, stating that we are willing to continue working together, that we have made some progress in the first project, we have met the obligations under the previous project, so it is safe to entrust us with another project. I also proposed to invite other partners to join future projects. So all of us could continue working together, but we could invite other business organizations or trade union organizations to take part. I believe now we have representatives of 4 major universities here, and also we have the Institute of Public Affairs from Poland. So the scientific expertise of our group is really strong, but we would like to get some perspective from the trade unions, and we could also invite a business association to join the future project. So this is my suggestion. So all of us could continue, but we could also invite more partners to that future project. So this group will definitely take part in the future project, but we also want to include other organizations. This will also depend on the scope of the new project. So do you agree? We do not have too much time, and you won't be able to sign in person the proposal, but if you publicly state here that you agree to take part in the future continuation project, then Miriam could send it to the European Commission. Unless Miriam disagrees and she believes we could do it differently. So are you willing to take part in the project continuation of this kind? Yes, I will be sending the document to you via chat, but also by email, so that all of you have access to that agreement. It's an agreement on the continuation of project. And I'd also like to add something about the infographics. The infographics have been developed by Angel, and we will send the infographics to you so that you are all able to disseminate them on your websites and through your social network profiles. And we also encourage you to publish them on your websites and if you do so, please make a screenshot and send it to us so that we can comply with the requirement to disseminate information, and then we will send it over to the European Commission to accomplish the task related to dissemination of information. So now I am sending to you the agreement on the continuation of project. And I just recalled that in this weekend, we still had those newsletters. 3 of them have been sent already. And in this week, we are going to send the 4th issue, and it will include information about the infographics and about the video. And we will leave plenty of time to Dusan to finish the final report and the comparative report. And then we will publish the 5th newsletter in which we will include the key findings and the comparative report, which will be published on the project website. In the newsletter, you will also find links so that we can easily access the information, just like Lazar suggested. And you can easily access the infographics and the report, and then you can disseminate it within your organizations and within your networks. Everyone can choose their own way of disseminating the information. There is a lot of freedom in that respect, and you can do it as you wish.
Entiendo que todos estáis de acuerdo con remitir esa propuesta de acuerdo de continuidad y seguir trabajando en un nuevo proyecto.
I would suggest that we send such a proposal to continue our collaboration. So if nobody is raising their hand in a sign of protest, I agree. I would conclude that you agree with my suggestion. So what do we have left? Okay, so let me remind you that if you want to send your comments to Dushan in writing, do it via Miriam tomorrow, so that then Dushan can have the final draft of the comparative report ready by the 27th. And then we will have some time from the 27th until the end of May for our final comments, and we will close the process of modifying and developing the comparative report. So this is the summary of what we have agreed upon. And one more thing, before you leave this meeting, we have a satisfaction questionnaire. This is a compulsory element that we need to comply with. In the case of every online meeting, it is required by the European Union. This is all from myself, and I would like to hand over the mic to Dushan. Well, that's all from myself. It's been a pleasure to work with you. We will not meet again, neither in person nor online within this project. So I would like to thank Miriam for providing us with strategic and organizational support. I would like to thank our interpreters for their work, and that's all from myself. And now, okay, Miriam wanted to say something. So Miriam, over to you, and then Dushan. Dushan will close our meeting. Miriam. Thank you. Thank you very much. I still have something to add. In the chat window, you have links to our questionnaires. This is the evaluation questionnaire concerning our meeting today. And at the beginning of June, maybe a little bit earlier, I'm going to send you another questionnaire, which is a general project assessment questionnaire. So all of the people who have participated in any of the previous meetings will get a link to this general project assessment survey. And I wanted to ask you to fill in this questionnaire, as it is important for the final evaluation procedure of the project. That's all from myself. And now I would like to hand over the mic to Dushan.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank you, first of all, Miriam, for all the cooperation and support for me as a difficult task as a chief coordinator or main coordinator of the research. It was not been easy, and it's not still easy. So I suppose if we get the project continuation, I think someone else could take this difficult role. For example, Małgorzata on or someone else. But let's talk about it later if we get the continuation. It was a real pleasure to have feedback from all of you. I thank you for that. I thank you, especially to my colleague Dragan, who helped me do this difficult task of the research in Serbia and this comparative comparative research. I hope we meet again on either the continuation of the project or on some other project with me in some less demanding role, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it was difficult, but I was honored because you put trust in my expertise. Thank you very much. I wait for your final input, and let's do this. Until the end at some good level as it was. Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.